All right. Welcome, Door Grow property managers, to the Door Grow Show. If you are a property management entrepreneur that wants to add doors, make a difference, increase revenue, help others, impact lives, and you are interested in growing in business and life, and you're open to doing things a bit differently, then you are a Door Grow property manager. Door Grow property managers love the opportunities, daily variety, unique challenges, and freedom that property management brings. Many in real estate think you're crazy for doing it. You think they're crazy for not, because you realize that property management is the ultimate high trust gateway to real estate deals, relationships, and residual income. At DoorGrow, we are on a mission to transform property management business owners and their businesses. We want to transform the industry, eliminate the BS, build awareness, change perception, expand the market, and help the best property management entrepreneurs win. I'm your host, property management growth expert, Jason Hull, the founder and CEO of DoorGrow. Now, let's get into the show. All right. So, my guest today is Laith. Laith, tell me how to say your last name so I don't butcher it.
It's all good, man. It's Masarweh.
Masarweh. All right. Laith Masarweh. And awesome to have you here on the show. So, in this episode, we're going to dive into the power of offshore talent, explore how businesses from startups to Fortune 500s can unlock exponential growth. And you run a company called Assistantly, which I've heard great things about. You came highly recommended by one of my mentors, Sharon Srivatsa, who runs a multi-billion-dollar real estate company called Real. And so tell me, okay, tell me like a little bit about your background. How'd you get into this? How did you get into entrepreneurism and help
Yeah,
manage it?
yeah. No, I mean, I think I always had the entrepreneur inspiration since I was a kid. My dad always had like a small business that he was running, and it made me want to be an entrepreneur from a young age. He used to have me working in the grocery store shop since I was 8 years old, and it was cool to kind of develop, I guess, my like interpersonal and just learning more about the business at such a young age. And I knew I wanted to start my own business. I didn't know what I wanted to start it in. Of course, I attended Chapman University. I went to the business school. I thought I was into like virtual reality and tech. Didn't really know what my fit was. Got into corporate after college. I knew that wasn't a fit, even though I tried it. Didn't really work very well. And then I started a real estate marketing company here in Orange County, California, where we help agents, brokers, whether you're residential, commercial, property management. We assisted them with like real estate marketing needs. And during the pandemic, we got extremely, extremely busy. And we couldn't, there's too much demand and our team was super small. And somebody was like, hey, you should hire a virtual assistant. And I thought that was like an AI robot, and I didn't understand what that was. And I never learned about offshoring in college or any of that kind of stuff. And I got introduced to somebody. I thought she was local. She ended up being in the Philippines. I was like blown out of my mind because I've actually been working with her for years, thinking she was in Irvine, California, but she was actually in the Philippines the entire time. You could not tell any difference. And then I kind of got the spark in my head, and I go, man, I work with so many real estate professionals, and they're always asking me for help, whether it's administrative or operations or marketing. When I asked this girl, hey, how many people are highly skilled, great communication skills, looking for employment like you? And she goes, I don't know, maybe like hundreds of thousands. And I said, hundreds of thousands? There's hundreds of thousands of talented people like you? And she goes, oh yeah. And it kind of just clicked in my head. I'm like, people need this. It can't just be me. And I pretty much started Assistantly 45 minutes after learning what offshoring was. Didn't know anything about it, and I'm just like, let me go. I'll send it and kind of see, kind of test it out, pilot it with a couple of my people in my network, and 4 years later, here we are, and we service obviously real estate, property management, law, tech, healthcare, finance, a little bit of everything.
Yeah. All right. Awesome. So let's get into this. I mean, there's a lot of challenges that people have with this, and everybody's had. I mean, a lot of property managers have tested the waters of working with VAs in the Philippines or maybe Mexico, and there's kind of mixed feelings about how that's gone. Like it's, everybody's had some bad, if you've done this at all, you've had some bad experiences and maybe some good ones. And so it can be really difficult. And so a lot of, you're kind of at the mercy, if you're using a company like yours or some third-party company, you're kind of at the mercy of their hiring process to some degree. And some of these vendors that provide VAs have better hiring processes than others. Some of them, they all claim, hey, we've got amazing talent, or they all might sound American, but then you end up kind of getting somebody that has a heavy accent. They aren't showing up, on time, or they just disappear and ghost you because they're non-confrontational sometimes in the Philippines, or some of these sort of issues. And I'm sure you see some of this, right? How do you kind of do things you think maybe differently at Assistantly versus some of these other players in the marketplace?
Yeah, it's a great question. Obviously I started off, really when I got into the industry, I started hiring these people on my own. Whether they're from like people going to the Upworks or the Fivers of the world, or like job boards, and to like interview a whole bunch of candidates to understand where they're located in the Philippines, like what type of equipment do they have, internet connection speeds, do they really have that much experience? Because people obviously, whether you're US, Philippines, anywhere, they will always oversell on an interview or a resume. There's a lot of things that we do on our end. So like number one, you taught me this, and I think we had a conversation when I met you in Franklin about like that job description is so important when sourcing somebody, right? Because you got to make sure that everybody obviously wants a job, but you want to essentially attract people that are like, that's their zone of genius and they're passionate about it. That's why we actually follow the 4 Rs that Jason taught us a long time ago. And it's something that it's really important. It's like the first step is crafting the job description to compel to candidates. So they're actually passionate and interested about it. So that's number one, filling that top of the funnel. Number two, there's obviously a series of interviews. You can't just have one interview. We do multiple interviews. But like, I think obviously experience matters, of course. Like I want people that are mid to senior level that know what they're doing. If they're in property management, I want, helping with like property admin stuff, tenant communication, daily operations throughout Folio. Like I look for those types of things, of course. But also like what's really important to me is like when working with a client, like, your personality and your culture is very different than than client Jamie or client James. Right. Yeah. And I think that's very important when finding the right match. And we do like a personality culture assessment that we built ourselves to essentially line them up with like whatever role, whether it's an admin, operations, or marketing role, to really understand what type of person they are, but like beyond just their experience. Yeah. We also verify references, like, right, because again, people could say, hey, I worked somewhere for 7 years. How do you know that? Right. I see people put like they went to Harvard on their, how do I know they went to Harvard? And right. It's those things that you got to cross check, call references. I think that's super important. But then we also vet out like equipment. Do they have 2020 and newer equipment? Because that's a big slowdown in the Philippines and like Mexico and a lot of these countries. When people go, my team member is so slow. Well, their equipment's from 2002. Like, of course, it's very slow, or their internet connection is very slow. Like, we vet out those types of things, which I think are very important. So between like the job description, the interviews, the proprietary personality assessment, the reference checks, we've obviously sourced for these positions thousands of times. So like, we really know what makes an A-level player / unit. We call them unicorns here at Assistantly. Unicorn meaning they're rare, special, not meaning they can do everything, in the kitchen sink. But like, those are things that we go kind of, beyond our measures. Plus, like, also one really important thing, whether you hire from us or you hire offshore, is it's not just compensation that matters. Like we give the highest compensation in the industry, but people really want a sense of community. That's what we built at Assistantly, where they feel supported, they feel loved, they feel cared for. We give really good benefits. And that's why like our retention is like, I think I've maybe in 4 years, there's been like 2 people to leave. And that was just for family emergency, not because they didn't like their job. So those are just a couple things to know.
Yeah, I think that's really powerful. Having community and good compensation definitely is going to allow you to attract and have the best people. Yeah. And you mentioned like RDocs, like for us, we got it. Yeah, I got the 4 Rs concept I got from one of my mentors, Alex Sharfin. And then I started adding more R's to it because I was like, this is there's a lot that I like. and like the most significant, I've talked about this before on the show for those listening, when hiring to attract the right personality type, is this resonate section at the beginning where we describe the personality that would naturally love doing this so that they can resonate with this. They read it and go, oh my gosh, that's me, which is way better than somebody going,
Is it
I
me?
would be willing to do this if you pay me
Hmm.
enough. Like, that's a very different type of team member. And I think this goes back to, regardless, for those listening, I think anyone that is going to use any sort of company to collapse time on hiring, eventually every business needs their own hiring process internally. Even if I use Assistantly or other companies to get a team member, I'm still going to put them through my stuff, my process, so that because I trust my process. And this is one of the things we do at DoorGrow is help our clients install a really good hiring mechanism. We just had a client come on board who was a past client. We'd helped clean up their branding and website, and now he's like at 200-300 doors or something. And he just had total team turnover twice in the last 6 months. He's on his third team in a six
Wow.
month period. And before that, he said life
Insane.
was amazing. He had this great virtual team. He had this person that was like trained as or educated as a lawyer that was running everything. And then he lost that person. They went and found an actual law job. And then chaos started to ensue because he realized that person was so great. They were carrying the entire team. And then he had no mechanism for knowing how to effectively hire or replace a team quickly. He had no real hiring machine. And what I've noticed, even in the largest companies, I talked to a guy the other day with 800 units, loves his business, doesn't want to change anything, super comfortable. And then I asked some questions about people planning a process, what we call our super system. And he realized he didn't have a hiring mechanism. And I could tell he
Mm.
got scared. Like, and people don't realize they're vulnerable when it comes to this, but they've built their team usually through a decade of Russian roulette. And they finally have a great
Yep.
team, great culture. He's like, I've got great team. I trust them, great culture. I'm like, cool. If you lost one of those key people, what would you do? You
Yep.
could like panic sets in, right? He's like, well, yeah, I don't know, I guess. And so I feel confident in my own business. Even though everybody on my team, I feel like is like really great culture fit. So I really care about them and they're really important. Some of them I've had a long time. If I lost any one of them, because I have good process documentation, I know that I could get somebody else in to do that work pretty well, pretty quickly, but to do the job. But I know even more than that, I have way more safety and security and confidence as an entrepreneur with the business because I know because of my hiring process, I could get the right person relatively fast, like within at least 30 days. I could have somebody else in play to be doing
Hmm.
that may be as good at their role or better. Because usually if I lose a team
Absolutely.
member, it's because they kind of either the business outgrows them or they've outgrown the business, but there's like they're no longer that culture fit, maybe, and then they leave, which is cool. Then I can go find somebody that's even better. And over time at DoorGrow, either my team members have leveled up, like I've had Adam for
Hmm.
gosh over a decade, or
Amazing.
or I level up the team members, like by getting new ones. Yeah.
Well, there's different people for different phases of growth, right? You know, you
Mhm.
get to the 0 to 1 million, you get to the 1 to 5 million, you get to the 5 to 10 million. You know, we've changed our team and it's evolved. I mean, I've had people that have been with me since I started assistantly, but then there have been people that I'm like, like client success. I think we should up-level this position maybe with somebody with an ops background because they understand the client a
Mhm.
little bit more. And I just did that recently, and I'm like, oh my god, game changer! Like, client success having an ops brain, they can go and help our clients and say, hey, you should think of things very differently. I also think like a misconception, like talking about your example, because like one person left, the whole team crumbles. If that ever happens, then you have the wrong team, right? Because
Yes,
people,
absolutely.
I have people that will say, like 20% of your team members make 80% of the work. I go, maybe at your company, not mine. I go, 100% of my team
Mm.
members make 100% of the work. Why would I have 20? And imagine if I tell my team, hey, just 20% of you guys are making pretty much all the work here consistently. Everybody's like, what the f am I doing here then? If those 20% are taking over the work, like that's a misconception. Of course, you have A level players, but and I always talk to our internal team about it. I'm like, why do we have an A-level department here, but a B-level department here, but then a C-level department here? Like, why can't we all be A-level and working towards the same goals and help each other and, collaborate? And I think like finding A-plus players, they're not easy to find, but like A-level players can also help those, let's say B-level players become A-level players. Like that's
Mm.
part of it. When you have good people, they help other good people grow. And I think that's like a huge misconception. It's like I have this really, really good person, but then like I always hear it, but like the rest of my team is like okay. I'm like, then you got to switch out your team. Keep your A-level player, but then you need other A-level players because like if you're at $3 million in revenue, like you should be at 7.5 million with the right team. And I see that
Mm.
even with my own thing is like when I switch out somebody, whether it's ops or client success or recruitment, I do this all the time and I up level. Oh, dude, like I'm like, man, this is what heaven and unicorns and rainbows look like. I don't even have
Mm.
to worry about any of this stuff. They're just taking care of it. They own it. And that's where like the zone of genius comes in
Yeah.
because you want with that resonate section, right? You want people to be like, that's me. I want to work there so bad. Like, that's exactly what I want to do all day. And people are like, really? You want to go through Appfolio all day? Like, that's what you want to do? And people are like, yes, I love Appfolio. I want to go through leases. I want to go, coordinate with maintenance requests. Like, there are people like that, that just because you don't enjoy it, which I don't blame you, you're an entrepreneur, owner, founder, whatever you are, there are people that are like, that's my bread and butter. I got it. It's easy for me and I like to do it. And like that zone of genius, like if you could find people that go, I'm passionate about it, it energizes me, it makes me feel good.
Mm.
That's how you get A-level players, not somebody that's like, I'm good at it, but it's like a vampire sucks to my tongue.
Mm. Yeah, I call that them being a personality fit. Like if they resonate, they're the right personality fit for it. If they're the right culture fit, they'll believe in you and be inspired and want to support you and work for you. And then there's the skill fit, which really is, do they have the intellectual capacity to develop the skill or do they already possess it? Right. Not everybody can have all three, and if they can't have all three, they're not really going to be a great executive level team member that you can trust to think or make decisions. So then maybe they could be people's process. Like they're like a robot, just do what I tell you to do. So, and this may be a perception. Is everybody assistantly, or is it all Filipino hiring? Is that?
It's not. No, I mean, I like to diversify my teams as well. I think it's super important. So I got like US folks kind of scattered through like Colorado, Washington, California.
So if somebody comes
And
to
then
assistantly to get a team member, where is talent sourced from? Is, I guess, my question.
I got you. So I thought you meant internally. So externally, it's Philippines and then Latin America, Argentina, Colombia,
Wow.
Mexico, and then the Philippines is our talent pool. I've also sourced from like Eastern Europe and different countries, but the Philippines and Latin are typically the two talent pools in which we pick from.
So one of the things I've noticed that's a challenge in the property management space for those that are listening, I think there's one of the things I've noticed is that it's really common for entrepreneurs to be miserable in their own businesses, have an entire team, and not have an assistant for themselves. Like
Mm-hmm.
and it's really mind-boggling to me that they build an entire team around themselves and they don't support themselves and they don't have an assistant. So my usual recommendation is their first hire should probably be an assistant. It doubles their capacity immediately and
Mm-hmm.
allows them to be more effective at whatever they're doing. And so that's kind of that first little bridge. I think a lot need to build in order to get to the next levels. They just need an assistant, maybe around 50 units or something. They need an assistant. And that allows them to get to another level. And then the next major, the most important hire that any of these property managers that are visionaries or entrepreneurs could bring into their business would usually be a would be an operator, like somebody that they can, because this is kind of an opposite personality type to the business owner. Business owners like to create operational systems, but they don't like to run it. They don't like doing
Yeah.
the details. They don't like running the planning meetings or you know running the hiring system or building out process documentation. That's not usually the most fun for the entrepreneurs, and it's usually that's all the stuff on their to-do list that they've been avoiding for like months. It's been on their to-do list, like, got to do this, I need to do this. And what they really need is an operator or an operational person. Now, it can be challenging to find good operators, especially when you're trying to offshore and stuff like this, because you're needing somebody that's a high level of intelligence. They're not going to be this person as process that's just going to follow a to-do item list. They need to think. They need to make decisions.
Mm-hmm.
Is this something that is possible through assistantly or through offshoring? Is this something you've been able to do even in your own business?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say our three highest requested positions are executive assistants, operators, and marketers, right? And that's typically what I
Mm,
see. And I say, don't get an EA confused with an operator. And I think a lot of people
right.
try to like kind of intertwine those roles. They're completely different, you know? So
Yeah.
when somebody goes, well, I want an EA that has ops background. I'm like, no, what you need is an operator. And then you need, you need an EA. So EA, then
Yeah.
operator. That's how I recommend, very similar. Talking about the EA, and then I'll get into the operators. So EA by far is the number one hire for you because, like you said, it opens up time capacity. It's funny. I've been pitching EAs for 4 years. It took me 3 years. I hired an EA not too long ago, even though
Yeah.
that's like what I pitch. And I
Yeah.
was like, holy shit, dude. I've been pitching this. Why haven't I had an EA? Oh man, I mean,
Yeah.
like I've added to her plate for the last who knows how long. But I mean, from like if my email inbox every day is at zero. My calendar is always organized. I have research on all my prospects. I have research on all my meetings before, like all prepped, ready to go before I get into for the day. All the follow-ups for me when I talk to a client and I'm trying to close a client on a strategy call, for example, they think it comes from me. It comes from Angie. I don't do any of that stuff. She creates the portal. She follows up with the client. She nurtures them. They close. I don't do anything. Um,
Mm,
she engages with my LinkedIn for a couple hours a day. She helps with my post writing. She helps with the blogs. She helps with the case studies. She helps with the reviews. Like, she's unbelievable. And these are all the things that I used to do on my plate, especially that like sales component of like client communication. Dude, that used to take me hours a day, like at least 2 to 3 hours a day. Like, for me
yeah.
to free up 2 to 3 hours a day in my own capacity to go focus on strategy and vision, infinite ROI for me, right? So like EAs, like, email calendar management, client prospect communication, CRM management, obviously some light marketing tasks. And then also helping with your personal stuff. Like, I go to a lot of conferences, I'm sure you do too, masterminds, all that kind of jazz, like booking flights, itineraries,
Mhm.
hotels, like all that stuff's taken care of for me. I don't ever have to worry about it. I
Yes.
check in. I'm in like the first 10. Like, I check in right at the time. I'm like always in a good seat. So that always works out super, super well. So like those are just some things an EA can do um,
Yeah.
that I think like number one hire for like both personal and business. Get like EA. It will change your life. It's the highest requested position probably like in the United States, Canada, New Zealand,
Mm.
Australia at the moment is an EA. Like, if you don't have an EA, I don't know how, like, you're just doing everything on your own and then you're just going to burn out.
Yeah. I love not having to ever look at my email. It's like my favorite
So
thing.
nice.
I like email and having to like do calendars and checklists and like these things are the bane of my existence. I love building things, creating things, and being able to like coach and support people. And so for me to be able to stay in my area of genius and not have to do the stuff that I don't enjoy, I think as business owners, we often make the mistake early in the entrepreneur journey of believing that because we're the business owner, we have to be miserable or we have to do certain things like, oh, well, I'm the business owner. I have to do my own email or I have to do the accounting piece or I have to do sales or whatever it is you might not enjoy doing. And the reality is you don't have to do anything if you're king or queen of your business. You really don't have to do anything that you don't want to do if once you build the business up to a size where you can build an entire team around you. But we usually build the wrong team because we're showing up consistently as the wrong person in the business.
Well, I always say the bottleneck is you. If you really look at it,
Mm,
you're the one, you're the one controlling everything. I mean, like, you're saying I got to respond to emails. They don't have my tone of voice. How people are going to not think it's me. Really? Why is that? I mean, do you look at a couple of responses? I mean, I even had my EA use Claude AI. She got my tone dialed in. So if it's emails or blogs or any of the social media posts, even my LinkedIn and comments and engagement, like, people think it's me. She already matched it through AI. Like, she's AI enhanced. Like, and I have all that training I
yeah.
give to people on for EAs. Hey, you want your EA to sound like you? I have it. Like, here it is. Make it easy for you.
Yeah.
There's no excuses there. Getting into operators, because like that's like, well, okay, EA, I get it, they're an assistant level, but like
Mm,
operators, that's a high level role. What does that look like in the Philippines or Latin America? um, you could find a good operators, right? But again, operators are different than EAs in the fact where like they think of things very macro. They look at the business as a whole and
mm,
see like where they can streamline things, where they can fill in gaps, where they can like stop the leaking of the holes. They love implementation of systems, implementation of processes, like they like to tweak that kind of stuff. And especially property management, you can find really good, operators. Like even I know again, I'm going to use Appfolio as an example or whatever.
Mhm.
There's a ton of tools out there. Like you
Yeah.
should never be in your tools and platforms. You should have your operator managing the day-to-day
Mm.
tasks in your, because that's the whole idea when you hire somebody in ops is to manage those day-to-day things in your business so that you don't have to deal with it. If there's a fire, should be your operator it should be that type of person to like, hey, I'm taking care of this. I'm working on the day-to-day type of things. This is kind of high priority. This is medium priority. This is low priority. Because when you're operating, if you are operating your business, you are not growing your business because you're the one operating it, right? Like there's no way you can grow from 50 doors to 100 doors to 300 doors. I talked to the guy in Baltimore who he's a property management client that he just came on, and he's like, dude, I'm at like 800, 900 doors, but I can't get past 1,000. And I'm like,
Mm.
why? And he goes, well, dude, I'm like working like 18 hours a day. I'm like, why are you working 18 hours a day? And he
Right.
goes,
Yeah.
he's like, yeah. He goes like, well, I'm pretty much
Let
I'm
them
property
guys get
management
good.
on a lot of these things. Yeah, and I'm like, why wouldn't you just hire somebody to hand? I mean, he's like naming the tasks, right? Of like, I'm like looking at it, like, pre-qualifying leads and day-to-day operations with, interactions with tenants and helping with the maintenance and responding to those maintenance tickets and scheduling the payments and all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, you're doing those for your clients? Why are you doing those for your
Yeah,
clients? Like
that's
that
like
makes
frontline level work. That's like the first exit to make in your business is to exit the frontline work. Yeah.
100%. And I'm like, dude, just have somebody like, and that's what I'm saying with the whole operator. Cause like an EA is for you, an operator is for your business. That's the
Yeah.
difference, right? Like
Right.
that's, EA for you, operator for your business. And if you have yourself taken care of and you have your business taken care of, are you telling me you don't have capacity to grow your doors and scale and,
Oh
get
yeah.
to the revenue targets? Like that's obviously like, once you have those two dialed in, you got time back. You're looking at things just kind of like plugging in where you need to, but it's not so much the day to day anymore, which is that's where you
Mm,
feel actually a sense of freedom.
yeah. No, I love it. I want all of my clients to get an EA, and I want them all. We surveyed them and we were really surprised how few of them have an assistant. I was like, this is what
Yeah,
we teach, but it's hard for them to justify. And they also they're control freaks in the beginning, and it's difficult for them to trust. But once you have somebody that is a good culture fit, a good personality fit, a good skill fit, it's easy to start to let go of things. It's easy to start to trust. But
oh
before
man.
that, you shouldn't trust. And that's the mistake. They've probably been burned. They brought in the wrong person and they tried to maybe trust, and you can't. Like, you're not, that's stupid. You're not supposed to trust people that you shouldn't trust. Yeah.
And it takes, I mean, look, like I'm a full honest and transparent person. Like
Yeah.
sometimes it takes a couple people to find your unicorn, right? Like I always say, you got
Yeah.
to you go through a couple donkeys and zebras to get to your unicorn, right? Like
Yeah.
and it happens. Like is your first hire, like when you, whether it's local or offshore, going to be your ultimate 10-year hire? I don't know,
Maybe not.
maybe, hopefully, but maybe not. And then you hire somebody else. Like I've been burnt, of course. Like I've hired
Yeah,
U.S.
me
and
too.
Philippines, and you've been burnt, but then you find like an Adam, and you're like, dude, this guy is like Lord and
Yeah.
Savior to me. I can't function without this guy.
Yeah.
And you have to go through the process, because like again, you being the bottleneck, if you don't just you got to, it's like rep. You got to keep doing it until you find the right person.
Mm.
Then when you find that right person, you're like, this is it. We're gonna grow. There's no way we don't.
Yeah, absolutely. So, what what should people know about what should they expect to spend to have a really good operator? I mean, in the US, you're looking at like 60 to 80K minimum, right? Minimum to have a decent operator a year. What if they're using maybe assistantly or going, to these other countries? What's sort of the cost savings for those that are like, man, the operator sounds like a dream. How can I get one?
Yeah, and an operator obviously depends on where you're located, of course. Let's say like I even like you find an operator in California, you're spending like probably six figures,
Yeah.
depending obviously where you're located. But like, let's say the average is, let's just give you an example, 75 grand, right? Like
Mhm.
with us, so that's 75 grand, you got to take care of HR, payroll, taxes, benefits,
Mm.
typically. With us, you're typically spending between 30 to $36,000 for the year.
Yeah.
So it's pretty much half, and then we take care of all the HR, payroll, benefits. You don't have to worry about any of that stuff, taxes, compliance, all that jazz. And then it's a write off for your business. It's like a software write off, which makes it even super attractive. So the fact that we will source really great candidates for you. We will help you obviously interview, because I think that's super important. Like, again, like Jason mentioned, everybody has their different process. You want to ask them questions according to you and make sure it's the right fit. Then we will onboard you, but then we also manage them on a day-to-day as well. Making sure they're clocking in, clocking off, performing at the highest level, keeping them accountable. And we keep track of all that stuff on the back end. So that performance success on the talent side and the client side is, part of our managed solution. And if anything doesn't ever, for example, you hire Kate after 8 months, you're like, hey, I want to try somebody else. We offer a free replacement guarantee. We can switch out people as easy in 48 hours as possible. So, but cost savings, it's half. That's why people do it. So, even the guy from Baltimore, he goes, so you're telling me I can hire 2 people for the price of 1? I'm like,
yeah.
Yeah, you can hire essentially 2 virtual property managers for the price of 1. That's exactly what I'm saying. And then we take care of all the stuff on our back end. And so now his team can double the way he wants to, and he still gets that stuff taken care of on his plate.
Yeah. Very cool. All right. Well, Laith, awesome having you here. I think everybody listening should reach out to Assistantly if they don't have an assistant yet and get an assistant. I think we have a special DoorGrow code or something set up with you guys, I believe, that they can use. Let me see if I can find it here in our vendor database. But yeah, I've heard great things about you guys from others, and I think that you guys would be a great company for people to go with. Yeah, so our clients get a 10% recurring discount on their subscription if they use our link. So we'll make sure and throw that link out to the marketplace if people are looking for it on our podcast episode when we post this. And and check out Assistantly. Well, what's the easiest way for people to get in touch with you besides that?
Yeah, I mean, my email is laith@assistantly.com if you want to reach out to me. It's laith@assistantly.com if you want to reach out to me directly. Otherwise, our website, assistantly.com, you could book a call. It typically gets routed to me or my team members. It's a great way for us to kind of have like a 30-minute strategy session where we're going to outline the role, the responsibilities, the requirements. Take all your brain dump of like, this is making me frustrated. I don't want to do this. I need help with this. Like, we take all, like, just, you literally come. You don't got to come with anything. You come, you just vent. We take it, we organize it, and we say, hey, how does this look, for the job description? We go, hey, it's according to the RDoc, essentially, right? Template. How does this look? They go, great. And then we can go ahead and hunt accordingly. So we make it super easy for you. I mean, from you just brain dumping to us putting the JD to getting candidates to onboarding, like, you sit back, relax, we take care of all that stuff off your plate. So any way I can help, I'm just here to support.
Awesome. All right, Laith, appreciate you coming and hanging out with us here on the DoorGrow Show, and excited to do more stuff with you in the future.
Awesome, Jason. Appreciate you, my man.
All right. So if you are a property management entrepreneur and you're wanting to grow your business, add doors, you're struggling with the operational stuff, you want some systems and some processes and mechanisms and an operating system, planning, people, process systems installed in your business by an operator, you want some help getting these things in place, reach out to us at DoorGrow. We can help you with that. And then you can leverage, Assistantly to get the bodies, get the people that can really make the difference. But you need to give good people good systems and good training. And this is stuff that we can help you with here at DoorGrow. And in supporting your operators, we've got a call just for operators that we do every Friday. And we have a call every Wednesday for BDMs. And this is how we're helping grow and scale companies rapidly. And if you want to be part of that rapid growth and be around other cool entrepreneurs, talk to us about joining our mastermind, and we'll see if you're the right fit for the group. So until next time, everybody, to our mutual growth. Bye, everyone.